Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. A warm welcome to everyone joining us live on YouTube and to those in the Vajrayana online Zoom room. And Tashi Delay to Khenpo Gyurme, the Tergar Institute faculty and friends from the Tergar Institute. Welcome to the Heart Sutra oral transmission event, a special joint effort offering organized by both Tergar Institute and Vajrayana Online. I'm Wei. I'm a student at the Tergar Institute, and I'm honored to be your host today for this event. The Heart Sutra is one of the most profound teachings on emptiness and wisdom in the Mahayana tradition. In Tibetan Buddhism, receiving oral transmission, or Ling in Tibetan, from an authorized teacher is considered essential for connecting with the blessings of a sacred text such as the Heart Sutra. It allows the teachings to take root in one's mind stream. Please note that the oral transmission must be received in real time. While today's teaching and commentary will remain available on YouTube for future viewing, the reading transmission will not be recorded. Before we begin, I would like to do a brief overview of today's program. Our program starts with Khenpo Gyurme offering a teaching and commentary on the Heart Sutra and emptiness, followed by the oral transmission. Next, we'll have a recorded teaching from Mingyur Rinpoche on joyful effort and emptiness. Then Dr. Justin Kelley, co-executive director of the Tergar Institute, will share additional insight from a scholar-practitioner perspective. And Justin will also take a few questions, and you can submit your questions by typing it into the chat box, both in Zoom and also on YouTube. And our support team will collect them for the Q&A session. And finally, we'll conclude with a guided meditation led by Tsunma, Kunsang, Palmo, our contemplative faculty at the Tergar Institute. Now, I would like to invite Anya, our Umse, to lead us in the opening chants of refuge and bodhicitta and the four immeasurables. We'll do each chant 3 times, twice in Tibetan and once in English. Welcome, Anya.
Thank you, Ray. Refuge and bodhicitta. Sanghi judon tsuki junam la janju baru dani japsuji dagi jeso gibe tsunamgi Rula benji sanje drubarashu sanje judan suki junama janju baru dani japsuji Dagi jesu yibe tsunamgi drula benji songi rubarashu. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until enlightenment is achieved. May the merit of my generosity and other virtuous deeds lead to Buddhahood for the welfare of all beings. The four immeasurables. Samchen dam chi de wadam de re ju dan de bar jurji do na dan do na ji judan ra war jurji do na Damen Jawa Jurji Nirin Chadan Nidan Jawe Danyon Jembola Nebar Jurji Samchen Dam Chi Dewadang Dewe Judan Dembar Jurji Dunan Dunaji Judan Jawar Jurji Duname Bidewadamba Damendra Jurji Nirin Jadan Yedan Rawe Danyon Jembola Nebar Jurji. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from sublime bliss, free from suffering. May they dwell in great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far.
Thank you, Anya. We now begin with a teaching and commentary from Khenpo Gyurme, who will also give the oral transmission of the Heart Sutra. Many of you may already be very familiar with Khenpo Gyurme, but for those who are new to him, this is a brief introduction. Khenpo Gyurme is a member of the monastic faculty at Tergar Institute, and he's also the abbot of Tergar Ösel Monastic College. Born in Tibet, he spent 12 years studying at Ling Monastic College in northern India. In 2010, he was awarded the title of Khenpo and joined Mingyur Rinpoche in Nepal as the first abbot of Tergar Ösel. Khenpo La will teach in Tibetan with consecutive English translation by Joseph Faria, a member of the Tergar Institute translation faculty. I'll now invite Khenpo Gyurme to share his precious teachings and offer the oral transmission. Welcome, Khenpo La and Joseph La.
gondru chalan samchi tashi dele singa zo nga yobe sanene gondru che ene sane kajile shoke nyingo ta tusanga samchi tashi dele shuya yin ene tedo nyamdo le ta tere shiram yinbo ka lang tang ene tino kan chehi dudu jansu jansu maa che shoke yin si.
So I would like to give my auspicious greetings to all of the participants present here today, no matter where you may be hailing from, whether north, east, west, or south. From my side of the world, it is the evening time, so I will wish everyone good evening from here, and just send my greetings in accordance with whatever time, morning, afternoon, or evening you happen to be coming from. So today I will be giving the oral transmission of the Heart Sutra, as well as giving a brief explanation of the text. Lasola.
얘네단 될 히렘 힘보 레온도 히레제 파르도 침비 힘보라고 요래 때 가르려고 그러는데 다 손지 좀 된데 지당 얘네 이제 티바람 바쌈다 얘네 이제 춘코 추준코라람 바람 바쌈도 거 아니 티바 쌈제 랑냠네 게즘바 내노가 나오네 단데 얘네 이제 까바바 진님해봐 얘네 이제 사모 동반이 어제 사모 동반이 또 비고 로텔에 히레제 파르도 침발라고 그래 다 되게 ke tongpa ni topo lam, sama tongpa ni chi tang, ke ane chi chu chin kolo mambo, chi kor chu mambo chi song jaba, ta teki hingbo rawo tsu, ane dune, ta tuanda hingbo rawo tsu, dodon rawo che dine, tene, ten yang ju ki kyong che la, tene hirim hingbo len shu yores.
So here we have the Heart Sutra, which is part of the Prajna Paramita section of texts. And in Tibetan, this is called Sherab Nyingbo. And Sherab refers to the wisdom teachings. And so this comes from the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni, which occurred in 3 stages, according with 3 different yanas, or turnings of the wheel of Dharma, essentially according with the various stages of the path. And so we find ourselves here in the context of the Heart Sutra in the middle turning of the wheel of Dharma, which has to do with the teachings on profound emptiness, the teachings on signlessness, or the lack of conceptual marks. And so there are many different kinds of teachings that accord with this turning of the wheel of Dharma. And so the Heart Sutra then teaches on the essence of all those teachings. And so this is why it is referred to as the heart of wisdom. Lasso.
Dine dan de lang, do ta ta ma lang, da lang da ma nyam de le to ta sai nenga chia to la ane te de hin do du ji ma hyo ro ta den te che de ta te ga gar cha go le de to na le chi ju do long ju le de chan do gre dene chi ju do long ju le de ta nga zo ju ba la go re ju ba ju le de to na le be ge no ma ju on de te ge chen bo do chi ai se na dan de ke tan ta nyam so lemba ton de ke tan de rong ge ju le to ba se ba la chi ju be ke chen la de go re so go re te ju ba le de ta son ji cham den de ke ene khong ke do ja ma ke le so en de lo me ge lo ma ta son ji cham den de ne ta ba do le ane che zembe yendo le che ni che de ma son ne ju yun ju che la ane ju ba la go te de ta de ju ba le te le che te ke ka le go ko kam chin da wo che dang ane 되게 제 전람다고 지 주바게 돈이 용거를 대용도 ane 되게 되는 소소 랑게 야티 단데래 냥네 제바 임바 연나요 제 단데 거치 보자 많이 봐 ane 대 용화가 돈도 돼야다 네 제 무슨 그런 주지 자동 무슨 녀몽 년보라 밥배죠 돈 돼야 ane 된지게 펜토 제버지 용거를 쏜 거를 제대 되는데 단데 마 ane 제 된지 주바 마때 나오지 치도를 되네
So along with the oral transmission for today, I also will be occasionally commenting on some of the more significant words and phrases that come up in the text. And so here, when we talk about transmission, we actually have 2 aspects of transmission. So one is in terms of the transmission of instruction, and the other is the oral recitation transmission. And so here, the idea of transmission is actually quite important, because when we practice in accordance with the meaning of the text here, it's important to also have the blessing of the transmission or the blessing of the lineage. This is, again, hailing all the way back to Buddha Shakyamuni, who taught these teachings to his disciples, and they in turn passed it on to their disciples, and so on and so on. So this gradually turned into the transmission or lineage leading up to the present time. And so when we receive this kind of transmission, this will result in us receiving blessings. It will as well leave a kind of habitual imprint on us. So this is not only having to do with our understanding, but also impacts us on an experiential level. It also is able to then act as an antidote to our negative emotions, such as attachment and aversion, and so forth. So this is why today, as I'm giving the transmission, I will be doing so in terms of both the instruction transmission and the oral recitation transmission.
맞아. 되네단 딩마 딩이 대체도 에네 친남바 가지 인지 불조 양조 그 아니 히르님 부차려나 아니 냠들라 자이네 어때노 쇼스 되는 게 만다 용이 승리 벽이 동동 용이 아니 친남바 소소 인지께 돌때는 여 대변도 요나 아니 될 자이나 되게래.
So I will begin to recite the oral transmission now. So if any of you have a copy of the Heart Sutra in an English translation, then please feel free to read along together with my oral transmission, which I will be reciting in Tibetan.
시름 님부 교소스 마선 좀 시라 바라지 마지막가 남중원 소소롱을 이기 줘요. 두섬 자외영화 찬살로 데게다 기투바 되잖아. 좀 내내 절벽 작업 품으로 개롱게 겐드치 모두 son조선배 겐드치 모두 탑제도 요때 대체 좀 내내 사모노와 계셔 추전원론지 땡연자는 냥발 요소 양 대체 상주 선바선바체 뭐 파바 ចេ네제 오서 시라지 바로도 치마 삼이 쬐바니라 넘어라 따기 홍몽아보 대단하요 롱이지 동으로 넘어 따오 대내 산지진투 체도된 바 샤리브 존재 선바선바체 뭐 파바 ចេ네제 오서는 데키지 메소스 단디 다다 아니 히르니 모두 동보 링겔로 링겔레도 떠나라 가와송바리 스칸도치네 송바리레 데르텐도 아니 네 작업품 버절라 담바 잠된데게 되는 콜 되네 제다 샤리볼라서 비숑조스베 겐드 망보도 탑제도 요네 아니 제 송순자와도 출 간도치네 송바리 라온도 되네 제다 샤리보다 아니 제그 잡았지 아니 델 담바 손지가 말 레인 온 수주고네 잡았더니 수주고네 손간주 어떻게 차대기 요레스.
So here at the beginning of the text of the Heart Sutra, it mentions where the teaching was given, where it was taught, and this occurred at Vulture Peak. And then it also mentions to whom the teaching was taught to. And so this includes individuals like Shariputra, as well as a retinue of various bodhisattvas and so forth. And the manner in which this teaching was given was in terms of a question and answer, or in terms of responses given to statements. That's all.
That's onde dende tatamba oli yubuke tone ene sharipo ke tawati papa chenreze le tawati ene chenreze ke laino ene dini kore no mani tawati ne ta kono mani le tende tawati ne je ka popa to nuban rawode sangjeje ene je hereje paro de simba tane nyamba yaondo di nyamba yabe chenle toto ta nubala tene ene kono mani ki jul tongo mai ba ke je tawati ne je ka popa rawode lene.
So Buddha Shakyamuni was really heading this gathering, this teaching event. And then it took the form of this question and answer style session. And that happened between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, right? So they were speaking in terms of this kind of question and answer style. And the way in which they were able to discuss these Prajna Paramita teachings with such confidence came about due to the blessing of Buddha Shakyamuni, who was resting in the meditative equipoise of the perfection of wisdom. So it was out of this meditative equipoise that this blessing or power went out to and was received by Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, which then enabled them to discuss these profound teachings on the perfection of wisdom. Vasolo.
맞아. 대인도 다 아니 샤리보가 토말 되네 이제 봐봐 젠레zel다 저와 가르치바레 레온도 아니 라이지봉 공라라 히라제 파로도 좀 잠이 째바도 바리 제다 라바자 대진도 다 가세 아니야 라이지봉을 방 보모 공용로마 쉐기 세다 되네제 히라제 파로도 좀 사모 동반이 제 된래 제 투바도 삼바도 감바 제 사모 동반이 제 된텔 제 투선 감사 제가 되바 요나 아니 테가다 가르를 하고 그래 택선로 간데지 동고 그래 헤르제 파르도 삼바 제 사미게 된텔 간데 제네 아니 제 투비체레 삼비체레 감비체레 줄이 제바치 고그레는 아니 타바데 테티바레 아니 텔레 바바체레제 랭 농야바치 차데기요레스
So the first question that we have here from Shariputra is, how should a child of noble family who wishes to practice the profound perfection of wisdom train? So this is basically then Shariputra asking how anyone, any such noble child, whether they be male or female, if they wish to engage in this perfection of wisdom or this profound emptiness in terms of learning, contemplation, and meditation, then how should they approach this? How should they think about this? And how should they develop the wisdom that is born from such learning, contemplation, and meditation? And so then Noble Avalokiteshvara responded to this question.
샤르네 되게니 매바당 장저 선바지몬 파바 ចេ네저 온쇼 그 체도 된바 샤르네디 볼란 되게지 매소 샤리보 라이제보 뭐 강라라 샤라제 바로도 좀 삼미 쬐바제버는 더바든 더더 넘바 따와 자데스 다 ចេ네제게 아니 가세 보모 공유로마체 샤라제 바로도 좀 단래 냠서 램반 더바 공사 이렇게 요나 아니 되게 된다고 제 손로 동거 그래서 근데 되네마 손로 동동데마 손요래
And so then Avalokiteshvara responded about what an individual should do when they wish to practice the meaning of the profound perfection of wisdom. So he goes on from here to discuss how it is they need to think about this or consider this.
되네래 다 되래 홍보가 뭐 대다주 롱인지 동바라 영다바 지서 따오 조 동바오 동바니 조소 조르 동바니 예마이 동바 레중 조 예마이노 대지르다 동보 아니 가 셔레제 사미게 단 셔레제 파르도 심베 단은 냠바 야반데나 아니 가를 싸우는 동거 그래 리드나래 다 나랑 그 줄라 예베게 풍봉가보 조지 뭐 소보면 되게 집으면 되지 집으면 나버히베 풍보데 풍봉가본데서 제 나랑 그 삼반 나기는 나랑 그 템반 나기를 지 다다 나랑 소로 노한 나기 많이 봐 그래서 랑이 제 동반이 봐 용다바 지수 따고 그래서 랑이 제 동반이 봐 히고 그래
And so first, Avalokiteshvara responds that when one wants to practice this profound prajnaparamita, this profound perfection of wisdom, they need to do so in this way. And that is to consider the 5 aggregates as not existing in the manner that we think about them, not existing in the manner that we perceive them or in the manner that they appear to us, but rather we need to perceive them as being empty of nature.
어데인데 다티 똥바 대요 랑기지 똥바레스 랑기지 똥바 사운드 제 가르는 알아서 리베기 째바 제네 똥바니 유야바다고 해도 제 톱도 누반다고 제 똥바니 제견저 따고 레베스는 말레스 연다 제게 제 똥바니를 람네니 똥바니 차순이라고 레베스는 대요 말레스 아니 어나 가르를 되더나고 랑기지 코 코로 아니야 저동도 내동 통데 동보 니니 코로 똥바니 레디어 마도바게 제 저동 진연해를 뛰는 동반이 제한테 더 많이 봐. 그 코로 뭐 더점지 랑인지 얘네 되네 아니 코로 동반이래스. pomoga 보대.
And so here the text mentions, the teaching mentions that these aggregates are naturally empty. And so here, when it talks about this kind of natural emptiness, it is referring to the fact that this emptiness is not something that is created by our thinking about it, or is created about how we analyze things, nor is it something that is because someone said so, but rather it is naturally emptiness. It is originally empty. It is an emptiness which is not based on causes and conditions. It is essentially, originally, and primordially empty.
반대래. 다 되네. 동반이마 제버히 온도 다 동보 제 풍몽아데 랑기지 동반이 봤다. 어나 풍몽아데 랑기지 동바 따동도 간데지레 레온도 되네 조 동바오. 동반이 조소. 조레 동반이 예마. 동발에 주 조이 마이노 손데 되네. 동이 지코로 레데 손바레.
And so then when we start to perform more investigation into emptiness within the text, it discusses how we are to observe the 5 aggregates. And so this is where the text mentions that form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness.
안데 단들 동이 지코로 손으로 동이 지코를 뒤트나래 다 zo dawo ke chuche la tene ko koron che yin zo te che jujin yin he ke tomba ni he ta se ja ba ta wara sna mare se zo koron rangin che koron zo ge ngol topa tsam je tomba ni re yon je tomba ni le te yon zo ri ma to pa ke ani tomba ni le te zo ke tang tomba ni zo tomba ni le te zo le lo su che ba che zode pa yadine te mainba ga tomba leji soji yemba chele tseno yore besene te yon yo mares te ndu zog tomba le te zog khoron rang re de yore daga no ji zole tomba ni yen mains zote le ani logachi zog tomba ni le te logachi tene ji gi chuni yore besene te yo mare yen mare tomba ni le jo zog yen re besene te yo mares te ndu dona 아니 제타 다다지 나론솔이 예베게 조 레온도다 루 데리 루 조지 폼보 데네 제 라운드 추카콘도 나론의 예베게 루 데네 제타 아 홉디 때바인바이나 룬데 뎀바타버지 룬데레 제 데독 초로여 댕게지 룬데 아니 제 나나나요 바 찬다 차요 바지 덴지지게 무슨 여바타버지 여레들 임바이나요 근데 지금 아론소 그 세노는 템바 나인지 뎀바레스네 뎀바 마레데 동반이래 센 어떤데 진짜 동이 이거를 송제여레스
And so here, when we're talking about emptiness, we're talking about emptiness and form. So here, when it's talking about form as being empty, it's not saying it is empty because of some certain causes and conditions, but rather the form itself is emptiness. And likewise, when we talk about emptiness here, we're not talking about emptiness as some nature apart and separate, distinct from form. Emptiness is the form itself. Form is the emptiness itself. Form also does not exist as something separate or apart from emptiness. So basically, when we're talking about our form here, right, referring to our own aggregate of the body, this is something which may appear to be true or real when we just suddenly perceive it, because we experience various things such as pleasure, suffering, pain, and so forth. And so, yes, from one perspective, we do have that, but it is not true or real in the way that we conceive of it to be. Rather, it is emptiness itself. Lasola.
아니 게 많이 넣었어. 다 대견도 서로와도 되시던 되지도 넘버를 희반도 동바오. 샤리브 대다 주던지 동만이 된 세니메바 마제바 망가바 저마메바 저마도 자라메바 저와메바 강와메바오. 뭐 된다 제 다기 조동바 동만이 조동만이 니 조기 많이 봐 동지 저거 동바 연돌 서로와라 되나게 아니 뒤시당 되지도 넘바 희반도나 지 조는 남지기 되게 추노 탐지대 동반이 되게 많이 아니 대동반이 대 아니 되게 주바 동반이 되게 많이 봐 어떤 지는 동지기 고토로 송 동고 그래 송여래.
So here, when it goes on to talk about the other five aggregates, such as feeling, conception, volition, consciousness, right? So all of these five aggregates, as well as all phenomena, are emptiness in the same way as form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form, right? There is nothing that is separate or apart from this emptiness. So it is teaching us here that we need to consider these phenomena in this way. Lasolo.
맞아, 고마매 봐오. 샤리브 대답에나 또만이라 조음에 초라미 뒤힘이 늦지나메 남버 희바메 매미 나바메 남이 제미 르미 예미 조미 담메 제미 로로메 지자미 추메도 마이게 컴메바니 예지 컴메 예지 남버 희바 컨지 바도요 메도 마레바 세바메바니 가히메 가히세베 바도요 메도 대견도 동하라바도 건종와도 고바도 왕도 이히당 이힘이 터바메 마도바요 메도 샤리버 대다웬나 상조서만은 토바메베치 샤르게 파르도 쳔마라 땡제네데 산라 잡바메베 따바메데 신지롱데 켄네 냥이는데 건 타첸도 어때인데 다 덴지 동만 얘기 때는 손로 동도 되네 제다 주자처럼 리자라 소바레 다가노기게 야지 레도 녀모바레 안에 다가나기게 야제 mam바 탐지제 이히르 제바 탐지 덴지 동만 얘기 때는 yinpa hakowa jene tomba niki tani nyamba yane tomba niki tani solo tongwa yinpa yina ane teni ki rongka sem nongdo le ki takpa tang, jikpa tang, tokpa tang mamto ane taso tamchi yende ne teni nyangi lende yenso ane cheta nyangi lende pa tarchinto le teni nyangi lende pa kompong nyangi yo dongma le charweke ane kompong tapto kare songyo.
So here, again, in this section, right, it's basically telling us that when we contemplate on the emptiness of phenomena, right, we are contemplating on the emptiness of the objects of our perception, such as form, sound, smell, taste, touch, as well as the afflictions, the negative emotions, and so forth. So basically, when we practice emptiness and contemplate on emptiness in this way, it will dissolve all of the fear, all of the doubts, all of the conceptuality of our mind, and this will then enable us to achieve the state of nirvana, free from suffering. Lasola.
두산도 넘바 유부 손제 당주지 헤레제 바로 대신 만달라든데 라나메바 양다바 조부 손주는 넘바 조부 손제소 대인도다 대백의 손제 당지죠 동반이 단선로 동네 애네야제 동마 당지를 줘바리 다대게 손제 당지죠 동반이 단선로 동네 애네 동아를 줘바리 마음바는 잠바는 저백의 상지 당지장 이 동반이 단양서 램발에 때네 애네 넘바 조부 손제바리 제대 대인도 나랑서 계시 동아를 줘고 요나 되는 동아한테 샘진 점바당 아니 댐반 점발에 되는 용어여도 뒷년보텔에 아니 지 댐반에 동반이 기타는 선을 통해তে 단 조도 줘봐 라미온 따라지 차기 요리 손발 넘어서 봐 손제소
And so here in this section, it is mentioning how all the Buddhas of the three times attained complete and perfect enlightenment. And so this is to say that all the Buddhas of the past contemplated on emptiness and then became free from suffering. And all of the Buddhas of the present time also likewise contemplated on emptiness and achieve this complete liberation from suffering. And likewise, even all the Buddhas of the future, they as well practice emptiness, and because of that, will be able to attain complete Buddhahood. And so what this means for us is that if we want to free ourselves from suffering, then we need to work with this conceptual grasping or fixation that exists within our mind. And what is the antidote for that? The antidote for that is this contemplation on emptiness itself, which is the supreme path that is taught here. Lasola.
에다베나 헤레제 파르도 신바 나 리바 쳔베 나 라나메베 나 마냠바도 님베 나 동하담제 라도 히바르셰베 나 메즈베나 데마르 히바자데 헤레제 파르도 신바 나 네바 때야타 가땡가데 빠랑가데 빠라성가데 보데 소하스 안 대지를 단데 이렇게 람가 땡겨를 때든 가땡가데 빠랑가데 조람 조람 통람 간람 말로블람스 때 동반이 그 gambayena 아니 텔레데네 zembe yendolang 아롱 그 샌디 야진도네 아니 랑가 렘지 줘야되네 되네 다 아니 야지 보디 소하 되네 다 손제던 아니 드바 탐질 토토레 송바리
And so the mantra here is in reference to the 5 paths, the path of accumulation, the path of joining, the path of seeing, the path of cultivation, and the path of no more learning. So what this means is that when we practice emptiness, then it basically enhances our own mind and enables us to progress through these 5 different paths. And then when we reach the conclusion of the mantra here, which is Bodhisoha, that is basically an encapsulation of complete enlightenment, which is freedom from all obscuration. Lasola.
타리보 샹저 선바 쳔베 대다 헤레제 파르도 선바 사몰라 라브스 자오 데네 점네네 땡인제 텔레겐데 샹저 선바 쳔모 파바 쳔레제 온솔라 라이소 헤자바 쳔데 라이소 레이디보 데테겐노 데테겐데 제대로 쳐지 땜바겐데 헤레제 파르도 쳔바 사몰라 쳔바 자데 대기 기반함 주 지수예랑 점네네제 대기제 까츠네 치도 댐바 샤란다디 보동 샹저 선바 쳔레제 온솔도 탐지도 되면 코르데다도 Fladon, Medo, Lamayan, Tazaji Jamden de Jesumala number 2. Or did it that in the Papa Chenez down to any Tindic land jet sama Tadulatene. Jamde de Tagi any cheta, Tomani, Kitanyamba Yade, Tinyam Yatele, Tulone, or that Papa Chenez somebody taken the race, Demerson songs, do some Sonja Tomji Kijo Lam Tele Lazaji, and this one Yakio Mares on the Tene, that's Sonja in the Jesus no gas. Papa Chenez Harry Poker Travati, tell Papa Chenez lane that that's a Jason and Sonja Jamden de tell or Teddy or race on energy. No. They on the tunnel, and he came him on the Jason or Gal and Sonja song, or the race.
And so we reach the end of the text here, which is the conclusion of Avalokiteshvara's response or responses to Shariputra. And so it is at this point, at the end of Avalokiteshvara's answers, that the Buddha then arises from his meditative equipoise, dwelling in the profound perfection of wisdom. And the Buddha states that what Avalokiteshvara has taught here is true, is correct. And basically, there's nothing more to be expounded upon than what Avalokiteshvara has taught here. So this is what happens once we reach the conclusion, coming from Shariputra's question to Avalokiteshvara, to which Avalokiteshvara then responds, and the Buddha then finally says that everything that was taught by Avalokiteshvara is correct and true. Lasso.
Hiraja Paradishim Himbu, Dozos. Oh, yeah, that is Tilang so the Chet in the mountain here and Tuchinang.
So that completes the essential teaching on the Prajna Paramita, which I have passed on to all of you with this transmission of instruction and oral recitation. So I would like to thank all of you for being here.
Thank you, Khenpo, for the oral transmission of the Heart Sutra and the profound teaching on emptiness and Prajna Paramita. We're so fortunate to receive the blessings of this sacred text from you. And thank you, Joseph, for your clear translation, making these precious teachings accessible to our English-speaking audience. Now, before we bring in Rinpoche's teaching on the topic, we would like to share a short video that highlights Tergar Institute's unique approach and vision to cultivating and supporting the path of the scholar-practitioner. So now let's watch a short video.
Welcome to Tergar Institute, where timeless Buddhist wisdom meets today's world. Discover how tradition and innovation come together in this transformative program. At the core of our program is Vajrayana Buddhism, an inspiring path of deep insight, powerful methods, and the potential for transformation. We begin with a clear and comprehensive journey through the 3 yanas, laying the foundation for the profound teachings of the Kagyu lineage. At Tergar Institute, learning doesn't stop at intellectual understanding. We emphasize study and listening, meditation and experiential practice, as well as meaningful engagement with the world. Study directly with Mingyur Rinpoche, respected lineage holders, senior Khenpos from Tergar Ösel and leading international scholars. Knowledge comes alive when applied. That's why our approach is rooted in applied learning, practical, grounded, and experiential. Each step of the journey integrates view, meditation, and real-life application, moving from conceptual clarity to lived understanding. Take your learning deeper through our immersive in-person program at Mingyur Rinpoche's home monastery in Nepal. In this quiet, supportive setting, free from daily distractions, you'll have the space to fully immerse yourself in practice and study. We keep our learning community small, so you get the support and connection you need to truly thrive. Work closely with a dedicated mentor one-on-one, receiving personalized guidance from our expert faculty throughout your journey. We believe that true understanding leads to compassionate action, so we bring our insights into the world. Develop your own unique social impact project in a nurturing environment that supports your vision and voice. Thank you for joining us. At Tergar Institute, we're building a global community of learners, practitioners, and change makers. We hope you'll be part of it.
Thank you for watching. From my personal experience, it's a wonderful program. And now, before I invite Dr. Justin Kelley to come on, you can, if you have any questions, I invite you to put it into the chat box, and Justin will have a chance to answer your question after his presentation. Now it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Justin Kelley, Co-Executive Director of the Tergar Institute, to introduce Rinpoche's teachings on how to connect with emptiness and to share his reflections from a scholar-practitioner perspective. Justin is a longtime student of Mingyur Rinpoche and holds a PhD from Rice University's Department of Religion, where he studied with Dr. Anne Klein. At Tergar Institute, Justin applies his scholarly training to the design of innovative Buddhist educational programs that are experiential, socially engaged, and rooted in Tibetan contemplative lineages, with a focus on transformative learning and applied pedagogies. Now, welcome, Justin.
Thank you so much, Wei. Really lovely to be here with everyone. And I thought it would be useful to just briefly introduce and contextualize Rinpoche's short video that we're about to watch. He hones in on one specific element of the path of the Bodhisattva, which is articulated in and through the Heart Sutra, and that's joyful effort. And we chose it because I think it's a linchpin, if that makes sense, or a fulcrum, right? From where we go from the intellectual to the experiential. We are each being called by Mingyur Rinpoche and Khenpo Gyurme and these other wonderful teachers to imbue the teachings within every element of our lives. And how do we do that? We do so with joyful effort. And so without further ado, we'll hear from Mingyur Rinpoche, and then I'll be back to provide some more comments afterwards. Thank you.
Joyful effort. Sometimes people call diligent, but I think diligent might be not the right translation. So normally what we call this essence of this paramita is the mind of interest with the virtue. So here virtue meaning something meaningful, something purposeful. So meaningful sense like helping you and everybody, like relating with the love, kind, compassion, non-violence. And then through that helping many people, you and others. So normally when we see the interest, when we see the purpose, when we see the meaning, the energy comes automatically, the effort comes automatically. So if we don't see the purpose or meaning and the benefit, then we need to push ourselves very hard, and then we don't like it, and then there's an inner rebellion comes. So then it's become very difficult. So now, how to develop this joyful effort? So normally there are three kinds of joyful effort. The first is Amar-like joyful effort, and the second is the the action, effective action of effort. And number 3 is unstoppable effort. So the first one is Amr like effort is like you need to find purpose first. And normally I discuss that anything what we do in our life, there's some kind of purpose that if we really do well, it helps everybody, right? Unless if you're doing something harm to others, like stealing, your work is like a drug dealer, all these things, then you cannot have that intention. But otherwise, maybe you may, maybe engineer, architecture, teacher, maybe a doctor, nurse, anything, any professional. And that, because everything's interdependent, the world is connecting each other. And if you put your heart into that, if you see the purpose that helping you, your family, others, through the work, benefit for many, many people, if you help others, they will help you also. Like even a business, if you really want to have good product, really want to help people, for the long term, there's more beneficial. They like your product, they want to buy, and it'll be good for your business, and you can help more for others, right? So it's like circle of goodness. So finding that purpose, like Amr. And then second, for that purpose is we need to accept what we call impermanence. Life is like up and down, just like stock market. Up is good, but down I can learn. So it's like Amr, that accepting impermanent and ready to transform obstacle into opportunity, problem into solution, right? So there are many practices, like everything can be support for awareness, love and compassion, wisdom, and especially here, emptiness. All these difficulties, obstacles, problem, all these problems like emptiness. You, obstacle, suffering, all are emptiness. So like Amr. So the first. Then second effort is based on that. Then now you are, maybe you practice for yourself. Here maybe you're doing study, all these things. Or maybe you are helping others, maybe generosity. Or so whatever you're engaging, that continued engagement. But most important, what we call, don't do at one time too much. But kind of like more relaxed. Every day, try to continue. So you need to find balance. Not too tight, not too loose. So that's the actual effort. And also change sometime. And you need to add creativity also. Every day same, you feel bored, become lazy. So a little bit, though underline is same, but then it's a little bit change, like creativity, and refresh your practice. All these are very important. And then the last, unstoppable meaning, don't stop. Sometimes what happens, we do something, then we think, oh, the result comes good. Then we think, okay, now enough. For example, if you practice meditation, maybe you have the panic attacks. Like for me, I have panic attacks. I meditate for 5 years. My panic attacks are gone. And many people, they stop meditation also. But I never stop, because I still discover so many great things within myself. It's like there's sense of excitement, interest, inspiration, what I call unlimited discovery within ourselves. You are happy, but you can become happier. You learn, you can learn more. So don't stop there. Continue to learn, continue to transform, continue to learn, continue to grow. So that's the last effort. So all this, the most important thing, how to connect with that is the emptiness. So armor, the best armor is emptiness. And best, we need to find the balance when we practice, engage with the emptiness. If you engage with the emptiness, then your practice may not be too tight, too loose. Your mind's free in the ultimate level, but that beyondness is unceased, right? It has manifestation. So relative level, you can engage, you can connect with anything, right? So that beyond three sphere is really beneficial with the effort also. And then continue growing, continue learning that to deepening realization of emptiness. So emptiness practice not just free for panic attacks. It's continue learn like until fully enlightened. So then you don't need to do anything. But when you're fully enlightened, you're busy to helping many other beings. But you will not have stress. Spontaneous comes with the three kayas.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. Yeah, so what we're looking at today is obviously the Heart Sutra. But the Heart Sutra, in a certain way, is kind of the most essentialized version of a much larger body of literature, if you're familiar, the Prajnaparamita. And Khenpo referenced this in describing and unpacking the title of this text, the Heart Sutra. What is it the heart of? It is the heart of this larger body of literature, the Prajnaparamita. And to do it justice in such a short period of time is quite challenging. But Khenpo did such a wonderful job of essentializing elements of the teachings to give us a flavor of what this is about. Same with Mingyur Rinpoche. And just to begin, this mimics the way in which we relate to these profound pieces of literature and profound practices at the Tergar Institute. We engage in cycles of inquiry. And so today is mimicking that, where we're getting a pith instruction from Mingyur Rinpoche. We're getting traditional commentary from Khenpo Gyurme, so learned. I'll offer some more kind of scholarly, quote unquote, and practice-based remarks. And then Tsunma Kunsang will come on to guide meditation. So this really mimics how we come at this process within the Institute. And I also want to recognize the kind of comprehensiveness of the Tibetan approach. Whether we take a text like the Heart Sutra or we take a short introduction like what Khenpo Gyurme gave us, they treat this material in a comprehensive way, meaning they don't disregard, for example, foundational vehicle practices such as refuge and the four immeasurables, right? Nor do they negate elements of the Mahayana, the great vehicle, in which we're understanding emptiness. And then, of course, the backdrop is always with Mingyur Rinpoche, and in this profound lineage is the Vajrayana, specifically Mahamudra. And so in the Institute, we talk about taking a particular approach that Mingyur Rinpoche likes to mention, and that's practicing 3 yanas on 1 cushion. So I've noticed some questions in the chat, and of course, many of you are engaged in the lovely transmission through the Vajrayana Online, looking at the Abhidharma Kosha and Mingyur Rinpoche's commentary on this text, meditative manual on this text. So there's a great example, right? We look at the Abhidharma Kosha and Rinpoche's commentary. It spends a large period of time focusing on the 5 aggregates. And I've seen a couple questions about this. And those same 5 aggregates become the focus of the Heart Sutra, a text that we describe as being from the Mahayana canon, but yet it's imbued with principles from the foundational vehicle, as in the Abhidharma Kosha. So again, we take this comprehensive view. And I think it's productive when we talk about this in the Institute. I think it's productive to remember Mingyur Rinpoche's perspective. No matter what he's teaching, whether it's Joy of Living level 1 or Path of Liberation level 5, or a traditional text like the Heart Sutra, no matter what he's teaching, he's coming at it from the perspective of Mahamudra. So it's in the background, you could think. It's the flavor with which he articulates these core elements. Here, when he's describing joyful effort, he's doing so from this expansive, kind of all-encompassing perspective that is Mahamudra. If we don't remember that, sometimes when we engage with traditional texts like this, it can become confusing. Why, for example, in Rinpoche's meditative manual on the Abhidharma Kosha, why is he mentioning such a kind of what could be viewed as a non-traditional foundational vehicle perspective on ethical training, for example, which is much less about the kind of minute actions we're engaging in and much more about what's occurring in the mind? Well, this is because he's holding this view of Mahamudra. So a couple more comments before we open it for questions. Wei, in her lovely introduction to this session, talked about how the Heart Sutra is profound. And I think it's useful for us to ask the question, well, why is that? Why is it that the Heart Sutra is considered profound? And Khenpo La mentioned this a number of times in his commentary. And that's because of this lack of conceptuality, or what we could say this transcendence of conceptuality. That's where the profundity comes from. We're not, when we're reading the Heart Sutra, when we're studying the Heart Sutra, when we're practicing the Heart Sutra, we're not simply resting on the intellectual level. We're going much deeper. It's almost it's an invitation for us to go into our experience, to reflect on these seeming paradoxes, right? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. How do we relate these two together? It could seem quite challenging on the intellectual level. When we go deeper and we connect with the profundity of the text, we go into our experience, it can start to show its transformative nature, I think, in many ways. Rinpoche likes to articulate this piece, which I'm sure, as students of his, you've heard. He likes to talk about from going from doing to being. This is embedded in this view. We're transcending the kind of right and wrong, that effortful exertion. We're instead connecting with something deeper, a deeper sense of purpose. We oftentimes describe that as bodhicitta, for those of you who are familiar with this term, this awakened or enlightened mind that we approach it with. And therefore, we kind of connect with something that is experiential and no longer relating on the conceptual level. It becomes embodied in that way. So I also want to mention, because likely if you're here in this short session, you're studying and practicing texts like the Heart Sutra. And one piece of our mission in the Institute, or our approach in the Institute, I should say, is that we hold a multitude of truths in the same moment. And so that's evidenced in the tradition, right? When we talk about the two truths, for example, so relative and ultimate, or Dundam Dempa and Kunzop Dempa. These two truths are held simultaneously. Ultimate truth explains how things are, their true nature, we'll say. Whereas relative truth describes how things appear to us. They're not distinct truths, nor are they overlaid on top of each other. They are entirely infused. They exist in our experience simultaneously. Neither's right, neither's wrong. When we take that same understanding of a multitude of truths and apply it to the Heart Sutra, I think we can really start to connect with the transformative nature of the text. And I'll run through a couple examples of what I mean here. We could, for example, we could look at the textual truth. That was some of what Khenpo Gyurme was doing with us today. He was walking us through the terms that were being used, right? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. We can look at each different word, and then we can look at how those words relate to each other. Very valuable activity for us. We might do so on a more intellectual level. We also might look at the historical truth, right? The text starts off by describing the setting, and Khenpo La articulated on Vulture's Peak in modern-day Rajgir, India, northern India, in the Bihar state province. There's an actual site where this took place, and we can understand it through the historical movements, maybe a geographical truth. This place, this space, these rocks that the historical Buddha, was said to have offered this text, that's a really profound location for those of you who have been. So there's an element of a kind of geographical or a spatial truth. We can also talk about an experiential truth, a way of relating to the text where we're looking within. We're using it as kind of an invitation to go within, to look at our own experience and understand, how do these seeming paradoxes, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, how do we live them out? How can they inform in a more constructive way, in a more beneficial way, our lives? We could talk about a transcendent truth. Mingyur Rinpoche mentioned it just at the end. This idea that emptiness provides a a way of being in the world and a way of understanding the world that isn't confined by the concepts that we overlay onto our experience. Instead, it's much more vast. It's much more adaptable. It's much more free. We could also take a behavioral approach, right? Rinpoche talked about, and there was a question in the chat, he mentioned very briefly, if this is the truth, right? If how things are is this truth of emptiness, why is it that we can't connect with this? Why is it that we can't see this? What ties us into these knots of samsara? It's our habitual tendencies, right? On a behavioral level, we are implicitly believing that, for example, the five aggregates exist as a solid, cohesive, stable self. That's not true. They're always changing. And so we can start to rework on a habitual level, maybe on a neuronal level in our brains. We're starting to rework the way that we behave in the world, the way that we engage in the world. So there's many different ways that we can connect with this text. And I just want to kind of articulate how if we're too rigid on one piece, we might miss the value of another. And so if you're looking at a text like the Heart Sutra, or again, Rinpoche's wonderful meditative manual on the Abhidharma Kosha that many of you are looking at, we run the risk of not being able to kind of take from it all the transformative potential that's out there. So I'm going to pause there and open it up for questions. And I think Wei is going to come on and read some questions, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Thank you, Justin, for your insightful reflection on how to hold multiple truths. We have some question coming in. There's a question from the Zoom room from Jono. Jono, I wonder if you want to come online and ask the question yourself. If you wish, you can raise your virtual hand and we'll unmute you. Jono, are you? Okay, there we are. Welcome.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, so my question is, like, I get how, well, my understanding right now is that emptiness is the kind of foundational quality or the foundational expression of life. And then form arises out of that due to I guess the three qualities, right? Like the love and compassion, and the cognizance and the wisdom of the nature of mind. So when we're saying that form is emptiness, I can get that pretty quickly. Like, yeah, okay, I can break down the particles into emptiness and it's all basically space. Okay. But when we say emptiness is form, then I'm confused because then it sounds like form becomes the foundation of emptiness. So I was
Yeah,
wondering if you could clarify that a little bit.
for sure, John. A great question. A very deep and a very profound question, and I appreciate it. And it's tied into some of the other questions I've seen in the chat, the questions of the nature of mind, for example. How does that weave into this? I know many of you are path of liberation practitioners. So you're correct in understanding, right? We talk about the ground, the path, and the fruition. And the ground is just as you said, Jonah. It is the basis from which experience arises. It is what, as Rinpoche says, emptiness is what it makes experience possible. If there weren't emptiness, then everything would be stagnant. It would be permanent. It would be unchanging, right? So we wouldn't be able to have these experiences. But the inverse is true as well. And the reason here, and I'll kind of I'll paraphrase Mingyur Rinpoche's teachings to hopefully help understand it. Rinpoche talks about how there's objective ways of meditating and objective ways of relating to the Dharma, and then there's subjective ways of meditating and relating to the Dharma. And this is really critical in understanding this relationship. We can say all form is empty of inherent existence, for example. That's a common phrase, right? What that means is that it doesn't arise the way that we believe it does, just as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, when we take a subjective approach, it is from our ability to perceive, to see, to feel, to smell, to taste, to touch, to think, to emote, right? That emptiness becomes elucidated to us. It is through what we oftentimes call the luminosity of mind that allows us to kind of recognize that. So in turn, they go hand in hand. Both statements are true, and it's dependent upon the perspective that you're taking, how you're understanding it. In certain ways, depending on how our minds work, and we're all really different, and Rinpoche is going to talk about personality types next year in the transmission. Really excited to see this.
Yeah.
We might connect with one piece or the other. The luminosity of objects as they arise could be our entry point in understanding the kind of dynamic nature of emptiness, and vice versa. By analyzing the kind of parts of objects, the parts of our experience, it might help elucidate emptiness. So those are just a couple brief comments on how those two fit together, and hopefully that's useful. But thank you again, Jono, for the question.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we have time for another question. And I think this question is for Kunsang, and it's coming in from YouTube. So do we have Kunsang online?
Hey, Wei. Yes, I'm here.
So the question is, what does it mean to practice emptiness, to contemplate in emptiness? What exactly is emptiness? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So as we've heard, emptiness or shunyata in Sanskrit is really talking to how the way that we believe things exist as solid, as independent, we kind of have that default mode. We just assume that things are a certain way. They really do seem to be very solid, very objectively there. And so in the practice, what's really quite fascinating here is that we can really look into that experience and see what is actually true for ourselves. When we actually pay attention, either looking and kind of analyzing, or even just in a way that we're very spacious and just relaxed, what is our actual lived experience of reality? When we really look to a thought, what is it? What do we actually experience? We can experience the thought, we can know a thought, but it's probably not the way that we truly think that a thought is. Thoughts so often kind of fuel our way of experiencing the world. They shape our reality of the world. But when we actually look to a thought in and of itself, what is that experience? And we can see that everything is arising, all of these things that are coming together. Everything is interdependent, impermanent, in this fluid experience. And so often we refer to, our reality as being like a mirage, like a rainbow, real but not true. We often hear Soknya Rinpoche say real but not true. So in practice, that's really what we're looking to. We're looking to see our actual experience of things the way they truly are, which is very different to our intellectual understanding of the way we think things are.
Thank you. Justin, do we have time to take one more question?
I think so, yes, Wei.
Okay. So, Gail from the Zoom room, would you like to come online to ask your question? You can raise your virtual hand.
Wei, why don't you go ahead and read that?
Okay. Hi, Justin. In those teachings, luminosity is supposed to have already been recognized. How to combine with nature of mind teachings?
Yeah, for sure. And Kunsang, please jump in here. I think this is a lovely question. I'll again refer back to this approach of 3 yanas on 1 cushion. That, as Rinpoche says, once you receive the nature of mind teachings, you can't separate that from your experience and how you receive these teachings. If we're again in Joy of Living level 1, they're imbued with that. And so what we believe in the Institute, and as is traditional within, for example, the monastic college system that Khenpo Gyurme is a graduate of, this encyclopedic knowledge that they develop and studying these texts so deeply. By studying texts like the Heart Sutra, it starts to stabilize and imbue our nature of mind practice with a more comprehensive and grounded understanding. And so in those teachings on the nature of mind, for example, this term emptiness is used all the time. Kunsang La just evoked one way of relating to and maybe experiencing a taste of this emptiness. And so by doing that kind of stage by stage and concurrently with our nature of mind practice, it can really start to strengthen, and it can start to imbue it hopefully with a more experiential and eventually a realization level of understanding. So hopefully that speaks to it a little bit. Kunsang La, feel free to jump in.
No, I think that was wonderful. Thank you, Justin. And maybe we'll touch into a little bit of that in the practice that we'll move into.
Fantastic.
Well, I think this concludes our commentary from Justin. Thank you, Justin, for your insightful wisdom and for your
Thank you so much.
teaching on emptiness. And now I would like to invite Kunsang to stay on and to lead us into a guided meditation. Tsunma Kunsang Palmo is a longtime student of Mingyur Rinpoche and serves as the contemplative faculty at the Tergar Institute. She took ordination in 2010 and later completed a traditional 3-year meditation retreat at Ling Monastery in northern India under Mingyur Rinpoche's guidance. She also serves as the meditation and Dharma teacher for Tergar's Joy of Living and Vajrayana online courses, as well as Tergar retreats. Welcome, Kunsang. Please lead us in a guided meditation.
Way. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'd like to just begin the practice really by bringing to mind Rinpoche's teaching, where he really referred to joyful effort. And so as you're settling into the practice, just take a moment to reflect on why you're here. Just tuning in and seeing what arises. There might be many reasons, a yearning for greater peace in yourself, in the world, a wish to be of benefit to others. Just tuning in, what brings you to this session today? And so seeing, as we turn to this movement of the heart, seeing that this doesn't come from pressure, from this desire for perfectionism, but this energy that comes naturally when we really connect with a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose in our lives. This is real joyful effort. So just taking a moment now to appreciate how listening, how contemplating these teachings on the Heart Sutra can really be of benefit not only to yourself, but to everyone around you. Through understanding yourself, you can meet life with more wisdom, more love. Even challenging experiences can deepen our compassion, our insight. And so with this in mind, we don't need to force anything. We can practice with a real balance, not too tight, not too loose. Just enough relaxation to let things be as they are. So bringing awareness now to your posture, settling the body, upright but relaxed. Allowing the breath to come and go naturally. Simply noticing that you're breathing in, breathing out. Feeling the breath as it moves in through the nose, the throat, the chest, the belly. Expanding on the in-breath and contracting on the out-breath. And now noticing how the breath is not one singular thing, but many sensations, warm or cool air, pressure in the chest, the movement in the abdomen, the coming together of all of these elements in a constant flow. And now allow your awareness to expand to the body as a whole. Sitting here, breathing. And when we say this body as a whole, what is the body really? You might notice the shoulders, the back, the legs. But each part can be broken down into smaller parts. Bone, flesh, blood. And when we look closely, each part is made up of further parts, cells, molecules, atoms. Where is the thing you call my body? And now bring your awareness to the mind. There might be thoughts arising, planning, remembering, judging. But where is the mind? Is it something you can locate? There might be appearances, a flicker of a thought, an emotion. Or perhaps the mind is still. Simply the experience of knowing. And if the body and the mind cannot be found, where is the I, the self that you cling on to? Breath is flowing, sensations moving, thoughts coming and going. But there's nothing to cling to. When we look to the mind, there is nothing to see, nothing to pinpoint. It's empty. And while being empty, you can still hear, you can still see. The union of form and emptiness is right here. So let go of the looking now and just allow everything to be as it is. Rest, open, and aware. Rest in the open, spacious nature of who you are. The open, spacious nature of who you are is not something you need to create. And so as we bring this practice to a close, arouse the aspiration that from the freedom that comes from seeing the way things really are, from seeing emptiness, free from fear, free from grasping, arouse the aspiration to engage in the world with compassion and wisdom. So thank you for practicing with me, and I'd like to invite Wei now to bring our session to an end.
Thank you, Kunsang, for the beautiful meditation to give us a direct experience of emptiness. And now our program is coming to a close. So I would like to express a heartfelt thank you to all our speakers and faculty from the Tergar Institute. Thank you, Khenpo Gyurme, Justin, Kunsang, for sharing these precious teachings, your reflections, the oral transmission, and the guided meditation, and for giving us a glimpse into the scholar-practitioner path at the Tergar Institute. I hope you all have a taste and a direct experience what a typical day might be like at the Tergar Institute. We also want to express our appreciation and gratitude to the support teams at both Tergar Institute and Vajrayana Online, working together behind the scenes. This joint event would not have been possible without everyone's dedicated effort and hard work. And of course, thank you to all of you, our audience, for joining us from across different time zones and places around the world. I now would like to invite Anya back to dedicate the merits of this auspicious transmission of the Heart Sutra and our time together. Anya, I welcome you back.
Thank you, Ray. Sunam de tam chi bani do ni be ranam bam jene ge ga na ji bala drupa ye zibe zule druwa sho. By this merit, may all attain omniscience and defeat the enemy wrongdoing from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of existence, may all beings be free.
Thank you, Anya. And before we close the program and say goodbye, I would like to highlight 2 upcoming Tergar events. If you're drawn to the teaching on the empty and open nature of reality, don't miss Mingyur Rinpoche's upcoming online retreat, Beyond Illusion. Rinpoche will teach on the 4 seals of Dharma: impermanence, suffering, No Self and Emptiness, and Nirvana. This retreat will be streamed live from Germany next weekend, July 4th to July 6th. You can learn more about this event and register at events.tergar.org. And the link is now posted in the chat. And there's also another upcoming event in August. We're excited to announce Tergar's new year-long transmission, Blueprints of Awakening. This new transmission includes 3 online retreats and 3 online courses exploring the 5 Buddha families, Guru Yoga, self-liberation, and pure perception. I believe this is the first time Rinpoche teaches this topic. I'm excited about this year-long transmission. So the teaching will be offered by Mingyur Rinpoche, guest teachers, Tergar Lamas, and Vajrayana online guides. And now we have a 2-minute overview of this wonderful upcoming transmission. And I wish you all a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. May auspicious causes and conditions come together, and we'll meet again to celebrate our path of studying and practicing.
The Vajrayana path, known as the most direct path to awakening, profound, powerful, yet often misunderstood. What if the very challenges we face, the difficult emotions we wish to push away, could become the very fuel for our awakening?
The essence of Vajrayana teaching is what we call pure perception, taking perception as path. You are Buddha by nature, right now, right here.
Tergar is honored to present a new transmission of teachings with Mingyur Rinpoche, Blueprints of Awakening. Together, we will explore the underlying principles, the core blueprints of Vajrayana practice, discovering how even obstacles can illuminate the path. For the first time, Mingyur Rinpoche will personally guide us through the transformative system of the 5 wisdom energies. This beautiful framework helps us recognize that the very traits we might see as flaws are in fact our enlightened qualities. Through online courses, immersive retreats, and live sessions with Mingyur Rinpoche, esteemed guest teachers, Tergar Lamas, and dedicated Vajrayana online guides, we will delve into the principles of the 5 wisdom energies, Guru Yoga, self-liberation, and pure perception. New lessons will be released each month so you can move at your own pace.
And we see the nature of 5 kleshas as 5 wisdom. So what we call poison become medicine. So hopefully these things really benefit for your own practice, for your life, and people around you.
Whether you are completely new to meditation or a long-time practitioner, everyone is welcome. Don't miss this unique opportunity to receive these precious Vajrayana teachings directly from Mingyur Rinpoche. Discover the blueprints of awakening. Visit vajrayana.tergar.org to learn more and join.